So I'm going to ask, just graph this is all I'm going to ask you to do. I'm not going to ask you to find points and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you a question. Can you graph this? And so far we know how to graph this by plotting 2 points. So basically all you got to do is plot 2 points. So to do that, I'm going to say negative 9x plus 6 times 0 equals 0. So you know what I'm doing here? I'm trying to find which intercept. Which intercept do you find when you put a y in? 0 in for y. Okay, so technically what I'm doing here is trying to find the y-intercept. I'm sorry, the x-intercept. That's what I'm trying to do. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's negative 9x. That's nothing now. Equals 0. Divide by negative 9. X equals 0. So the x-intercept is 0, 0. On the test, don't do this on the grid paper. I just grabbed this piece of paper, okay? So that means that one of the points on the line is right there, dead center at the origin. And as for finding the x and y intercept both, you're screwed because it's the same point. If you find the x-intercept and it's this, if I plug a 0 in for x, I'm going to get 0 again. So if you wind up with the origin as one intercept, you've got both of them. So now you actually, you're free to pick whatever point you want now. Pick any number you want. You don't have to use 0 anymore. So now you're free to just find a point. So could you tell me a number that I could put into this equation? You want to use 1? Which one do you want to use it for? You want to use it for x or for y? Because you're free to do whatever you want to in this point. You want to use the x? Okay. So I'm going to use, my x value is 1, and I don't know what the y value is, so I'm going to try to find that. So negative 9 times 1 plus 6y equals 0. Well, that's negative 9 plus 6y equals 0. And what would you do with the add 9? And we got to divide by 6. You wind up with a fraction. That's all right. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 goes into 6 twice. So I get this other point of 3/2. So I'm going to put that in there. Three-halves. So actually what you were doing was right. You were finding the x-intercept. But the problem is, you found the x-intercept, but the problem was you couldn't find another point because it's the y-intercept as well. Okay, if you plug a 0 in for x, well, wouldn't that go away? Okay, and then you're going to divide by 6, you're going to get 0 again. And that's what was happening, and you can't put 0, 0 in twice into Hawks because it's the same point. And you can't draw a line with just one point. Okay, what do you got? All right.
On mine, when I was trying to get certified, it said that same thing. It said y equals negative x.
Okay. We'll look at that one here in a second.
Okay.
Y equals negative x. We'll graph that. Okay, so we'll graph. So now I got to graph this. Okay. So on the piece of grid paper, you're going to use that first point 0, 0. You plot it, and then you go over 1 and up 2/3. I'm sorry, up 3/2. Right. So here's the original 0, 0, 0 origin, and then 1 3/2 would be right here. There's 0, 0. And then I'm going to take whatever you can, the side of your calculator or whatever. If you got a ruler, bring it. And then you connect the 2 dots. And then there's your line. Okay. Now, if I wanted to graph, y equals x, y equals negative x, right? Well, if you're trying to plot points, you're free to pick whatever number you want. So pick us a number. 2. Which one do you want it to be 2?
X.
X. Okay, so here's the point you know so far. 2, and you don't know what the y value is, right? You just picked that out of the thin blue air. Well, you said that's the x value, so I'll plug it in. Y equals negative 2. Well, shoot. Y equals negative 2. And there's nothing else to solve. So that goes right there. The second, that last problem, we had to do all that work to figure out what that y value was. So negative 2 is one point. Now you got to do it again. So pick you another number. 3. Okay, which one do you want to be 3?
It's a Y.
Okay, so you don't know the x, and you want y to be 3.
So you don't have to do the opposite letter?
No, at this point, if you're just trying to pick 2 points, you just pick whatever. The only time that you would be locked into doing something is if it says find the x and y intercept. Graph this by plotting the x and y intercept. But if it just says graph it, you're free range to do a whole lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you had to do one, then like solve for x, and not solve.
But we're gonna go over a different way of graphing where we don't have to do all this plotting points and stuff, and it's a little bit quicker. And so we'll cover that here after a while in the next couple sections. So okay, so we pick y as 3, so you plug it in. And how would you solve for x here? You'd have to divide by negative, right? So what's your x value? Negative 3. So you're going to put that back in. So negative 3, 3. Now you've got 2 points. Now you've got 2 points, and you can plot those 2 points. So 2, negative 2, over 2, down 2. And then negative 3, 3. So I go back 3, and then up 3. We're just going to, I'll go ahead and try to label those. 2, negative 2, negative 3, 3. And there's our line. So, moral of the story is you can pick any point you want if it just says graph. Okay? I'll go ahead and tell you there's going to be a question that just says right here, this, graph it. Right? And then there's going to be another question that just says this, and it'll say find the x-intercept, find the y-intercept. You don't worry about graphing it. Okay? So I'm going to ask you to find the x and y-intercepts completely by themselves. Then I'm going to give you another question that says just graph this however you want to graph it. Does that make sense? Does that answer does that hit your question, Ashley? Okay.